Well, hello, my baby gorillas. And here we go, straight into it. Let's see what everybody's saying. How are we all? Let me pop this chat out. I hope this is coming through. Let me just, I can't even check. Let me check if this is working. And hello. How are we all? Let me pop this chat out. And we've finally got the audio working. Oh my goodness, what a palaver that was. And it sounds pretty good. Is coming through. Let me just, I can't even check. Let me check if this is working. Sounds absolutely perfect for the sound, doesn't it? My goodness. So, we'll talk a wee bit about political compass, political compass. So, this is going to be quite interesting. Obviously, people are throwing about the word far right, and it's unbelievable, the usage, and racist, and oh my goodness, it's just that's the go-to now, rather than holding proper political discussions. It's just one word to smear you and shut you down if you don't agree with the globalist narrative. So that's a real situation there, where we are just being silenced, not on any rational explanation, but just purely on the fact of being able to be shut down, which is quite incredible. What are you guys saying? I mean, is it coming through loud and clear? Is everything okay there? Seems to be coming through this side. So what have we got? So we've already gone through the libertarian, let me just plug this. Hold on. Right, so that should be better. Hopefully that's that. So let's have a look at this. Come on to talk about authoritarianism and the political right in a second. So here we go. The Herald. When was this? 7 hours ago in the Herald. Who was it written by? By David Ball. Nicola Sturgeon on the campaign trail. Nicola Sturgeon has suggested that vaccine passport trials could take place in Scotland amid warnings from opponents the policy will divide the country. An increasing move, whether it's the Conservatives or Labour or the Liberal Democrats, all of these are authoritarian parties. And if you want to live in an authoritarian country where you're told that you have to have a passport to go and do just mundane jobs because of a virus that's eminently survivable. The sound is now superb, David. Yeah, thanks very much, Michael. I do my best for you guys. That was stressful trying to get this actually sorted out, but and it took a few days just to actually get something that's simple. But yeah, I'm glad it's coming through loud and clear. Obviously, there's been some money spent on just making sure that the quality of the sound is now perfect. So it'll change the whole shape of the broadcast now that we've got perfect sound. So, which is over the moon for you guys and over the moon for myself to be able to bring a better quality of broadcast, which it'll just get better and better now. So speculation, let me just get this, speculation south of the border suggests the UK government are set to trial reopening large events in England but to crowds amid conflicting reports over a vaccine passport scheme could be rolled out in the face of opposition. I would suggest that there's very little opposition. I would suggest that the main political parties, whether it's the SNP in Scotland, the Greens, the Liberals, and the Conservative Party, and also the Labour Party, not one of them are standing up against this. Maybe they can not even. Well, the Conservatives are going to do it down in England, and the SNP are going to do it in Scotland. So, or England and Wales and Northern Ireland. So it doesn't matter which one of these political parties you're actually going to vote for, you're still going to get a lockdown and you're still going to get the vaccine passport. So you have to really, if you don't want to be living in an Orwellian nightmare, you would have to go out with that, maybe to the UK Reform Party or the Scottish Libertarian Party, who will stop the lockdown, stop any vaccine passports. So you have to go out with the mainstream parties if you want to actually change this. And unfortunately, well, I'll leave that there. It looks like they've cut it off behind the paywall. So, what did we see? I saw something about a poll. So there's Michelle Ballantyne, end the lockdown now. So the UK Reform Party are looking to, or the Scottish Reform Party are looking to stop the lockdown, and I don't think they want passports, vaccine passports. I don't know what's going on here in America. I don't know what this is all about.
Yeah, look at him running. He running. Why are you running? You disrespected a black woman from this community, calling her a bitch. Called the police on her, told her to get out, and disrespected Black Lives Matter. I'm here to tell you that's going to stop. Black women, y'all shouldn't even be in this store. He disrespects black women by calling them bitches.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. I mean, obviously judged by crowd now. Is that coming through okay? Is that coming through the sound? Everything's okay now? Let me just check. Agree with the title. Iraq, war, Labour, and same with the Democrats in America. Yeah, well, I mean, it's just incredible. I'll come back to the political compass in a second once we have a look at this as well. Child prostitution crisis, my goodness. Alice, in Rotherham, 19 men were convicted. Official inquiry found that at least 1,400 girls have been exploited. That's these men must have been going hard at it then. If there's 19 men, only 19 men and 1,400 women. Ringleaders of the grooming rape gang, Shabra Abed, worked for Oldham Council with vulnerable children and their families. My goodness. SNP candidate compares Tories to Hitler and the Holocaust. I think that's correct. Those who are under... See, this is the problem. We'll just get people just making spurious allegations. Certainly just now the Conservative Party, like the SNP, are becoming increasingly authoritarian, and they're moving towards an increasingly authoritarian regime. This guy seems like quite a nice guy, seems to know his stuff as well. Those who are under the illusion that the UK has racial supremacist regime should read a bit about Idi Amin's Dada's project of Africanisation. suspect the historical case of a black dictator discussing his Asian citizens may not nestle in well with the identitarian worldview. It doesn't matter what you look like to be an identitarian. It could be, you can be, anybody can be an identitarian and an ethno-nationalist. That's what they're basically saying. I'm not an ethno-nationalist, but this guy, Doctor, seems like quite a nice fella. So, fraud cops probe SNP over Indy. Organised crime is going to make a killing from fake vaccine passports by Mr. Dankula, who's standing in Motherwell and Wishaw. Yeah, and Nicola Sturgeon's worst nightmare fielding questions from Alex Salmon and Georgie Porgy Galloway at First Minister's Question Time. Both of, although obviously I'm not a political bedfeather fellow of George, who was on, I was just watching the Motherwell talk shows before I come on here, and George is simping for the Communist Chinese Party, who have brought in sort of a fascist type of political system where they've got a ruling elite that's not elected, and then they kicked out Marxist economics because it didn't work, and they brought in this sort of corporatist, if you agree with the state then you're probably able to conduct business. And George just thinks that these guys are great. For some strange reason, he's simping for the CCP. And obviously, I would suggest that probably Alex is a social democrat, maybe an authoritarian social democrat. Obviously, his underlying ideology is probably similar to Nicola Sturgeon's, and they want to move towards the one world government, and he certainly wants to, the SNP, I think Alba Party, or want to rejoin the EU, the EU seems to be again becoming increasingly centralised in power in the hands of a few, similar to what the CCP are doing, and they seem to be bringing in some sort of credit scoring as well, and some sort of way to control the actual populace. Obviously, me being a libertarian, we're against that sort of thing. So, what else we got? So I actually support these guys, far left protesters chanting off with their heads outside Buckingham Palace. So I support the Kill the Bill protest, but obviously not off with their heads. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's treason or not, but I don't know whose heads they want to chop off. Pupils who protest the flag to be taught history. A brief history of lived experience. That's quite an interesting one as well. Spectator. All experiences are lived experiences. Lived, of course, but it seems some experiences are more lived than others. This has now become, truth has become malleable, where it's the truth from your own perspective, which gives you complete leeway to say anything you want. This may seem like a contradiction. This is where we find ourselves. Got a broad day for it. Thank you, SNP activists right across Glasgow, Pollock, for giving up time for such a glorious day to get a meeting. So that sounds useless. And Apple CEO Tim Cook joins corporate chorus attacking Georgia voting. So basically Georgia's brought in some way of identifying who's actually been voting. So there has to be a driving licence or a passport on the mail-in ballot, which seems perfectly legitimate to me. So they're obviously, that'll stop any election fraud happening. So Andy is asking for help identifying the man who assaulted the Asian woman. I think the one that kicked in the head. I think I heard the story earlier on that this guy had actually, well, I don't know if it's this guy, so I don't want to lambast him in case it's the wrong photograph, but the person who kicked the woman had actually was out of jail, and he had murdered his own mother. That was what another broadcaster had said. I don't know if that's true. I pledge never to lie and always remain true to libertarian principles. Gina Angus. Scotland SNP school failure exposed in report. They won't let it. You see it? Oh, aye. Yeah, well, don't forget they're not releasing the report till after the election in May, which is quite fly because then you can't actually decide whether or not there is problems in the education system. A virus, why didn't I think of that? Adolf Hitler. Press and discriminating against the youth. So there was issues in Glasgow. So I was wanting to see in Edinburgh, sorry, poll so it looks like Alex has gone from 3% as we predicted up to 6%. This is Sky News. Pro-independence parties tipped for big majority in Scottish election poll. I don't know what it's coming like over the internet, but it's coming through the sound is coming through very crisp here on the headphones. What are you guys saying? Hi, I'm half watching Maya too. Yeah, Maya's great. Yeah. I understand that. There's probably people on the going to have to watch this later because there's quite a few other podcasters on. You need to use networks on as well. So, what have we got? Poll carried out for the Sunday Times shows that the pro-independence, independence parties could win 79 of the 129 seats, a majority of one for the SNP. The Greens again will probably hold the balance of power in the Scottish Parliament rather than the Alba Party even. But it looks like Alex Salmond could be elected on the regional list to the Scottish Parliament, so that will make it highly entertaining. And I think Georgie Porgy's party sitting about 4%. So Georgie Porgy Galloway might be making it by Andrew McFadden, assistant editor. This was on the 4th of April 2021. Alex Salmond, Nicola Sturgeon, Georgie Porgy Galloway. Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon are competing against one another in May's election. Supporters of independence look set to win a big majority in next month's election, so I would suggest that we're probably looking at another referendum. The latest panel-based survey for the Scottish Times suggests that pro-independence parties could win 79 of the Scottish Parliament's seats come the 6th of May vote. With nearly half of the constituency vote, Nicola Sturgeon's SNP will win a narrow outright majority with 65 seats. The Scottish Greens are predicted to win 8 seats, and Alex Salmond's new Alba Party are forecast to win 6. The Holyrood elections are scheduled to take place in May, and these results would represent a disastrous setback for unionism. With one, and don't forget, Mr Sawa and the Labour Party refused to get into a unionist coalition, to stop the SNP and the Nationalists as well. Not that I'm a unionist, or it doesn't bother me. With one notable exception, I'm more of a libertarian against authoritarianism, which all of these parties seem to be authoritarian, while Labour and the Conservatives look likely to fall back. Maverick former MP George Galloway could be elected in the south of Scotland as a unionist for unity, all for unity. Writing the Times, poll expert Sir John Curtis from Strathclyde University said Alba is appealing to a section of the nationalist movement that wants a rapid timetable for Indy 2, which still admires salmon. Well, the problem you've got there is if they lose, because while they might get a stonking majority in the actual Scottish Parliament, they could still lose a second referendum because there's more unionists. They were obviously reflecting on what happened last time, and also where it is polling roughly just now. There's not a massive pro-independence majority in a referendum, so it's touch and go, and this is going to cause a major problem, because if these pro-independence parties fail in a second referendum, it means that people are then going to start to look at their domestic record, because they won't be able to just continually get another referendum. They might be able to do a UDI, but they won't be able to. They won't be able to call a third referendum, I would suggest, for a long time. So that might be in a generation. So that will really put it to bed if they lose 2 referendums, and that will cause a big problem, because then people will look at their domestic policies and see how they're developing and delivering that. What would have been the best political strategy, is to hold a Devo Max referendum, and that way could have been seen to increase the powers still within the UK. It would have probably sat well with and got a majority of people supporting it. It would still mean you would retain the pound, and yet you would have more powers in the Scottish Parliament to control the economy, etc. So that would have been probably the best scenario in the medium term. And then after that, if they wanted to continue for the push towards independence, they could have done that on the back of it, rather than trying to railroad this through. And as I said, it's going to cause a problem. If you look at Quebecois in Canada, then they have actually failed in on the second referendum. Yes, David, sound is quality. Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad about that. I'm going to put on the video just now and see make sure it's coming through in the video as well. Imagine watching his beautiful Fedora in that cow shed, telling them, oh, he's brilliant and that he's more socialist than them. Yeah, it'll be a competition to see who could out-socialise each other. The problem is, and it has been in Scotland, has been socialism, and I'm talking about the greater diaspora of socialism. That's been the issue with Scotland, and we've just jumped from one socialist party, maybe Social Democrat, to socialist, and we've just stoted about a whole different variants of social democrats, democratic socialists, up to Marxists in the Scottish Parliament. Obviously not a majority, but we haven't got out of the left in Scottish politics for generations now, since the start of the actual Parliament. And I would suggest that that's the issue that we have in Scotland. Any more Nazi party wins and this country will fail. Well, I think it's the underlying points that Nicola Sturgeon is failing as an MP, and Joanna Cherry, who Joanna Cherry is very intelligent, but Joanna Cherry would just be another type of disaster to Nicola Sturgeon. After the election, if the SNP win, they do well to have a cut about and say hail Sturgeon. Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to have a one-party monopolies in a proportional representation Parliament, where smaller parties are meant to be able to get on and get representation to represent different interests. This domination by one party, and almost like a one-party state in a proportional represented elected Parliament, is an issue. But they keep dangling the carrot of independence. But if they fail in the next referendum, which they're wanting to bring forward, then the carrot of independence is not going to be there, and then people are going to start to look at the domestic policies, which haven't been great, because they won't be able to bring through. They'll have to change their total strategy if they fail a second referendum, and they're going to have to change what they're going to do. What they're going to do if they fail? Well, I don't even know that. The survey predicts the Scottish Government would take 24 seats. The Scottish Conservatives would take 24 seats, Labour win 20, Lib Dems and 5. There's been polls out that the Scottish Libertarian Party are on 4% and the Scottish Reform Party are on 5% and the Alba Party I think are 6 if I can find them. Let me try and get this. Polls for Scottish. Brexit Party wondered what, so it looks like 4% change, 4%, so we're now looking at 4% for All for Unity Brexit Party. I've seen higher polls than 1.34%. So the UKIP's on 1%. I think it's pointless. I mean, if you combined UKIP and the Brexit Party, you're on nearly 4.33%. So you're starting to get to that combined. I can't see the point in having the Brexit Party or the Reform Party, it should be said, not the Brexit Party there. So the Scottish Libertarian Party they're not even giving the regional notification, and it's been told that it's higher. So the Alba Party is meant to be in 6%. The Liberal Democrats, so it could overtake the Liberal Democrats. It's now eventually got more members than the Liberal Democrats in just in a week, which is quite incredible, and it's got more MPs for the Alba Party. The Greens seem to be going up as well. They're up to nearly 9.5%. Labour's down. So Labour's down minus 1.52. I think it's down even further than that. I think it's down nearly to 16% as far as I'm aware. The Scottish Libertarian Party is not even represented here. So the SNP are down as well. They're down nearly 2% as well. And the Conservative Party are down 2% as well. So we're getting to the stages where if there's another few percent for the Brexit Party, then we're talking about 5%. You're going to talk about representation. On the 6% for the Alba Party, we're talking about 6 MPs. So that's on the regional list. Obviously, on the party list, it's the SNP are up. That's in the constituency list. As I said, they've not been even asked about the Scottish Libertarian Party. So you might get a complete different skew from these polls and actually get more on the regional list for the Scottish Libertarian Party. So nobody now and then, so it's only 2.14 for the Greens. The Alba Party's not represented here, or the Alba Party's not standing anything in the constituency list, and the SNP are up to nearly 50%. On the actual exchange, so the SNP will nearly win every constituency seat in Scotland. So the representation from the smaller parties will come from the regional list, which is quite interesting. The times. So again, no representation, no asking about the Scottish Libertarian Party. Phew. That was quite interesting. So let's go into what I was going to chat to you guys about. That is so this is the political compass. Now, before really the political compass was only these two. There wasn't, although there has been individual libertarians. So this is the authoritarian part. So all of the political parties in the UK all are in this part of the political spectrum. So when political journalists are giving political commentary, they only see it in a left-right type scenario. So their political comments are incorrect. So when they're spreading out information to the public, because they're getting the information wrong and not actually understanding, or they're even deliberately skewing skewing the political debate to Happy Easter, mate. Happy Easter, John. Deliberately skewing the political debate so that they can smear people, so they can just say racist or far right or whatever they're going to say to actually smear you. Then we would actually see they would do it. It's not relative to political opinion. It's not even relative to sometimes people who are racist. I mean, like Mr. Mr. Yusuf, who came out with openly racist statements in the Scottish Parliament. So after this election, if the SNP win, then do we have to cut about and say hail Sturgeon? Yeah, well, it's becoming increasingly authoritarian. You know this anyway. So that's no surprise. That is absolutely no surprise. So what would we describe as the far right? Now, this isn't an exact science. But I would suggest, so this is pretty much the centre where I am. I'm here on the political spectrum, so I'm just about 4 from actually the centre and 2 to the right into the libertarian right. So I'm a libertarian liberal. So liberalism liberalism goes up there. So authoritarian liberalism is neoliberalism, where that's where the authoritarians basically sit, who are de facto the people in government just now. So the Conservatives, the Social Democrats, the Social Democrats are pretty much up here, and the Liberal Democrats and the Christian Democrats going towards the Conservative. So as you can see, maybe sitting about here or here, I'm in the activism, which is obviously the Guerilla TV are an activist party, in the libertarian right. So the far right, as Mr. Sawar incorrectly said, would be, I think, fascism. Fascism's over here beside this is authoritarianism, some sort of form of authoritarianism. I don't think some of these are correctly labelled, but it gives you a good sort of understanding of it. But this would be the far right. So I would say this was authoritarianism or dictatorship, some sort of maybe militaristic or traditionalist dictatorship, fundamentalism, ultra-capitalism, libertarian capitalism, anarcho-capitalism, anarchism, ultra-anarchism, even parts of libertarianism where the minarchists are situated probably about here. And this is probably pretty much where I would think in this area, the Scottish Libertarian Party are. What we're going to do is have another centrist Libertarian Party in Scotland as well, which is a space for that. Their classical liberal, Carol Benjamin calls it, or libertarian liberal, which is basically here. Although it says activism, that's basically where it is. So what would the far right be? So technically, any of this, I would suggest, on the far would be far right. So it goes from the authoritarian right down to the libertarian right. But this is, although this is set out and is flat, this actually folds round in itself and folds back down in itself. So this is not a correct analysis. You have to look at this more as a sphere, where you can go from the Antifa, who are anarcho-syndicalists and anarcho-collectivists, and then it can flip right round to even being more authoritarian. So you can see them using violence to further their political ends, and that can flip right round up to national communism. So that's just part of it. So you can actually go into each of these and have a wee look at it for yourself, what would be described as far right. So I'm here, so I'm hardly the far right. In fact, probably I'm pretty much a centrist, but the real point is that I'm a centrist libertarian, which is obviously this part is all the libertarian side. And all different types of libertarianism. So there hasn't been libertarianism in a greater extent. So there's a massive amount of scope for political parties here. And obviously we've all had communism, National Socialism, fascism, social democracy as well. There is a Social Democrats Party in Scotland. So I don't know if they're libertarian or authoritarian, neoliberals. So I don't know that. So I don't just go about calling people far right or far left, even though George Galloway, for for example, would be a communist, so he would be the antithesis of somebody who was far right by his own speech, his own proclamation. Whereas as I said to Mr. Sawar, I'm actually a centrist libertarian, and it's a libertarianism and against authoritarian in all aspects of authoritarianism that's where I'm in the political spectrum. So it's not really a left or right thing, it's an authoritarian versus libertarian thing. And obviously I'm more at home with all the people, even in the left, who are actually of a libertarian base rather than an authoritarian base. So I hope that's settled that. So far right, I would suggest, was the second half of this. But even the word far right doesn't really give it credit, because there's so much variation from authoritarian or dictatorial, probably militaristic, totalitarian, authoritarian regimes, right down to ultra-anarchism and anarcho-capitalism. And it gives it such a wide spectrum of different political arrays that it's very difficult just to say, oh, that's far right. But the far right and racist and every other buzzword that they use is not about the underlying political ideology that you have. It's to other you. It's to shut you down and not let you talk. It's to basically to silence you. Oh, you're this. And even if it's not true, all you need to do is say, you're this. And you can't get people in the court for slander and libel. So they could literally just say anything about you. It's very difficult to actually get even legal representation to get you into court for slander and libel. So I'm going to keep this one short. I just wanted to sort of touch on this. Guys, if you want to say anything to me, have a wee chat with me just now, or I'm offski. I'm not feeling too great just now as well. That's why I put it off till later on today. And I'm sure you're probably watching other things like Georgie Porgy Galloway, so you'll be able to tune into this later on. So I hope I've covered a few aspects here. You just have a wee look at this later, and basically have a wee run through it and see if we can think of it. So you can actually Google, as I said, fascism is probably over here, but you can just Google each of these, and Wikipedia will bring up definitions, working definitions of what each of these actually mean and what each of these actually are as political ideologies. So as I said, I'm in the activism, libertarianism sphere down here. So I hope that gives you where my political stance is as well, so that when people are going to deliberately misalign me, you guys already know where I actually stand in the political compass, and you can say, well, David's actually a libertarian liberal, which is down